Hello, friend, and welcome to Picast 2.1.
Picast.
Yay, the Picard is back.
Yes, because it's the Picast.
Now, we'd already established that in the first season. You'd lost the battle.
But I was right.
We have a bit of last time, though, from the last original series episode we covered, which was talking about...
Squire of Gothos?
Squire of Gothos, thank you. Robert Moneypenny on Facebook said, drinks on instrument panels. It's an actual rule on aircraft that if the pilot and co-pilot are passing coffee to each other, they have to pass it behind them rather than across the central console. Apparently they've forgotten this by 2265. And Dave Probert suggested the cups were magnetised.
I kind of like that idea, actually.
Isn't that going to just send the instruments even more crazy? I don't know. Let's not worry about that.
Actually, you've got a point. If they were magnetised, it would make it somehow wrong. Yeah, okay. So... to the first episode of Season 2 of Picard.
Stargazer.
Displaying the signal as a waveform. Scattered, chaotic, analyzing. Not language, languages, plural. Dozens of them, all overlaid. All asking... no, pleading.
Agnes, what does it say?
It says, help us. Help us, Picard.
So you get to see something that I thought when I first watched it that it was a flashback, but it turns out to be a flash forward.
Yeah, it's a cold open, which is, to be honest, a bit of a cliche. But I suppose they felt that just opening on Picard in his rural idyll was a bit dull. But actually, I don't think they needed to do this. So, yeah.
So when you first see it, it's a firefight with Starfleet, and there's somebody who might be a Romulan or Vulcan, we don't know what, and it's self-destruct.
Green energy signals, yes.
Yeah.
We're all colour-coded, aren't we, in Trek, so that helps. Yeah, and there's that wonderful intruder alarm from the motion picture as well, which is nice to hear that again.
Intruder alert. Intruder alert.
Thing is, though, I think... is it Star Trek? Oh, which one is it?
9, 8, 7, 6, 5.
Get out!
3,
Get out of there! Get out!
1.
Star Trek 3.
Right, I think all of Star Trek should have that. As when the self-destruct goes off, that should be what's said on all of them. Not a beeping noise, not an alarm, nothing. Anyway, that's what I'd have. So you don't really know what this is going on. As I said, at the time I thought it was a flashback. And then my notes just then say harvesting grapes with doggy, because I like number one, the doggy.
Yeah. Yet again, I don't think we're going to see too much of him, unfortunately. But yes, it's nice to see Picard looking so happy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Not a reset to the angst of the beginning of season 1.
No.
Although we've later found out there is something bugging him under the surface, but there we are. But yes, that's definitely a cheaty way of picking grapes, isn't it? And I'm sure his brother wouldn't have approved.
No. And then they talk about Zhaban, and I'm just thinking, now, did I miss something? Did he die?
Not in the last season, he didn't. No, so between seasons, Jabana's died. It was nice to have Laris back, but Jabana's died. Yeah. Trek Core pointed out the unfortunate parallels with Crusher. Picard gets close to a married woman whose husband then dies and scenes seem awkward. It's like history repeating itself.
Oh, dear.
I don't know whether they're doing this on purpose or whether they just didn't think that through, but yeah. I wanted Laris back, but not like this, really.
No. And then she's one of a number of people who say, when you go to the stars, were you seeking her? Were you running? What are you hiding? Or whatever. And why have you chosen to be alone? And there's a lot of people asking this question. And it doesn't seem, I don't think, to have bothered him before. So I don't know whether we're supposed to read into it that now that he's got this synthetic body and he's got another lease of life and he doesn't have the brain condition anymore, is it that making him re-examine things? Because I don't watch Next Gen and think, here is a man who regrets his life choices.
No, I don't think so.
Did you see what I mean?
Not everybody needs to get married or even have a partner.
Yeah. So that's sort of like, I know that you get the whole bollocks in Generations with the Nexus, and I know that as well.
Well, wasn't that more because he was using his nephew he was going to be the family, the continuation of the line.
Yeah.
And when the nephew died, that was bad. But it wasn't to do with him not having children so much as this was the child he'd kind of adopted. And,
Yeah. The only thing I can think, and this might be tenuous, but the only thing I can think is that the experiences in the inner light, where he did have a family because he lived that other life, except it was all memories implanted by an alien probe. We know that it changed him in the sense that he made that flute, the Resican flute, and continued to play it. Did that change his attitude to children?
If it did, there was never an indication to it. I mean, he did call on children, but not. It wasn't like, I want children myself.
No, I didn't.
I'm more comfortable around them now.
Yeah, I think.
And yeah, that would have been an interesting callback to have just seen the flute on the, because there's plenty of other props from the original, from Next Generation around. But yes, interestingly, I don't think we've seen the flute yet. I don't think there has been a callback to that story, and that would have been an interesting one to have done. But instead, we get this. It just felt a bit artificial.
That's what I felt. That's really what, because I've never got that from either the writing or Patrick Stewart's performance before.
New.
So then you flash back to Jean-Luc Picard as a Victorian schoolboy. What the fuck?
Yeah, that is weird, isn't it? He's suddenly in the 19th century, judging by his clothes. I don't think it's supposed to be. And we meet Yvette Picard again, last seen in Next Generation Season 1's Where No One Has Gone Before. Now played by Madeleine Wise with an English rather than a French accent. Rather confusing. She was incredibly French. In fact, did she actually speak French? I can't remember. But she certainly was massively accented.
Yeah.
And suddenly they're trying to justify
Patrick Stewart's
accent. Picard's more English accent than French by saying his mum was English after all, but she wasn't.
No.
Sorry.
No.
I mean, Yvette. It's a pretty French name.
Well, except, what was her name? Yvette something. She was a Blue Peter presenter.
Yeah, but it's not quite a common English name, I think it's fair to say.
No, that is true. It's not a common English name. Something happens to his mum, but we don't know what. We also don't know whether that really happened or it's a nightmare, so it hasn't happened, didn't happen, we don't really know.
Yeah, and it's either something to do with his mum or something to do with his relationship with his father. It's not ultimately very clear.
No.
And I think that's on purpose. I think they're doing that thing which I do quite often find annoying, but is a narrative thing where rather than telling it all straight away, they just give you sort of glimpses, which then forms a picture as the season goes on. So you have your narrative arc, but which is fine once you've watched the whole season. But when you're watching it episode by episode, I mean, if they want to do that, then they ought to just release it all so you can binge it. But that's not the way they do Trek. So
I think I don't mind the whole releasing information piecemeal if you're viewing or reading something or listening to something whereby the point of view character only gets that information piecemeal. That's fine. So if it's like a detective story and you're only finding out bit by bit as the detective finds out the clues, that's fine to release it piecemeal. But it's not like Picard doesn't remember his own memories. Do you see what I mean? It's not like we're seeing this from Picard's point of view, so he should bloody know it. So I find it a little bit annoying, to be honest. And then you have a starship.
The USS Avalon. Well, there's potentially children. We've had that one yet, have we?
Oh, I love that tune.
Which is an Akira class.
Like the... Oh, is it the Thunderchild is an Akira class?
I would say yes. Yes. They're all the ships from this episode are on our Facebook page because Dave Blass, who's the guy who's the production designer on this season of Picard, has been really wonderful. I mean, it's not great if you want to avoid spoilers, but he just basically he puts loads of designs and set pictures on Twitter, and there is a wonderful diagram showing all the different ships from this episode, and there are a lot, which I've pinned on our Facebook page. So if you're interested, rather than me going through it every time, which I know some people will like, but other people might find slightly tedious. So yes, that's where you can find it and look up all the ships.
I'd quite like that as a poster behind our bar.
Yeah, it would look good. Yeah, blown up. Yeah.
Are they going to make it a poster? Will they sell it to us?
I don't know.
Oh. Dave Blas, you're probably not listening, but if you are, I want your poster, tar. Anyway, so it hits a spatial anomaly.
Yay! Yay! Proper Star Trek, this, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
Lots of people were saying, "Oh, that's the best episode of Star Trek for ages," and it's ticking an awful lot of the boxes that Star Trek normally does.
Yeah.
So that's to its credit, I guess. Although you could argue this is being incredibly safe.
Yeah. And then you have Picard giving a speech to the Academy where he's Chancellor.
The Starfleet Academy.
And he says it's time, not space, that is the ultimate barrier, which I guess is true because, like, we can potentially go anywhere, but we can't choose. Even in that future, they can't choose time travel. It's not something they can just do on a whim, whereas they can go pretty much anywhere.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure it's necessarily true of us now because there's plenty of places we can't bloody go. But for them, I think he's probably right. And also, the whole thing is like he's feeling mortal, even though he's now a synth, which kind of doesn't work really. But anyway,
well, except he's a synth with a. He's not immortal synth. He's a synth with a given time. Well, I don't know. Yeah, they haven't told him exactly how many years have that. Well, that would be awful.
He's what is it, Nexus 10 or something?
Yes, whatever. Yeah.
And he says that you're rarely offered second chances, and I'm thinking, okay, Tapestry Mark II then.
Yeah, here we go.
Yep. And you find out that one of the cadets is Elnor.
Yeah, it's quite nice, that, I thought.
Yeah.
It looks very smart in his uniform.
He does. And then Picard acknowledges that he's the last of his line and there won't be another Picard adventure. And I just think, you never used to care about this shit. You know, if it really bothers you that much, have a wank and donate some sperm.
Oh, really? Maybe he's shooting blanks out.
Oh, God, yes, he's a synth. He's not necessarily... doesn't.
Yeah.
That's a very good point.
There you go.
Yeah. God, we really needed that combination, didn't we?
Maybe that's it. And they just don't want to spell it out for us for obvious reasons.
Wow. Picard shooting blanks. Is that our episode title, do you think?
No. Draw the line there.
The line must be drawn here. This far, no farther.
Okay. And then you can see a load of medical crates, and there's a firefight, and there's 7 of 9, and there's a Spanish Rios hologram, and I just when he started speaking, I just was convinced he was going to say, "My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die."
This is Emmett, who I think we did see in the last season. I think only once. He's the emergency tactical hologram, which makes sense that he's getting involved in the action.
Yeah. And I like how 7 disables the safeties, and then he can
actually punch people.
Yeah, he can really proper kick ass and take names. And she just, between the two of them, that's just it. They've got all of them bound up, and it's just like, yeah, no. And then I like this, that you get a mention of Hawking radiation, and I don't know whether we've yet named anything Hawking radiation, but
I don't think so.
But I like the idea that we might do that after him, if you see what I mean.
Yeah. Seems fairly likely, doesn't it?
Yeah. And then you've got this weird shit stuff about Soji being a diplomat, and if she's learning all these languages because it matters that you can say things in people's original language, even though they've had use universal. Yes, translate.
It's like how she's managed to turn it off somehow, presumably, because otherwise it would be coming out. Oh, I don't know. It doesn't worth thinking about, is it?
Yeah. No.
And the people that she's with from this planet, Raritan 4.
Wow.
Yeah. It's like unobtainium, isn't it?
Yeah. Unobtainium 5.
Anyway, they're Deltons, as in Ilea from the motion picture. Yeah. Hence the lack of hair on their heads.
Fair enough. Okay.
There's a very short throwaway line at one point. It's like, oh, right, okay.
I did not pick that up. I picked up that they were bald, but I did not pick up that they were Deltons. And then you've got Agnes at a bar. And she's talking about how she's not dating material. And she's been cleared.
Killed her previous.
Yeah. But then cleared on the basis of, what was it? She said something like invasive alien mind technology or something that made her do it. So she's been cleared as a result. And then you find out that Rios is the captain of a ship. The Stargazer. No A, no B, no.
Yeah.
Oh, you've already had conversations about. I'll let you talk about this while I pour beer.
Well, I mean, ultimately, not every ship got A's and B's. I think it was something that was given to the Enterprise because it was a special ship, and then they started handing them out to other ships in Discovery. which is a bit more problematic. But they're not being consistent about anything anymore. So just got to say, they've changed how they do it now, and they don't hand out the.
Well, maybe what happens is
not prefix, suffix.
Suffix. Yeah. Well, maybe what happened is that there's a future version of Andy.
Or Andy travelled forward to the future and started
and just
taking
went,
names.
Oi, no.
Stop this.
Yeah.
The line must be drawn here. This far, no farther.
Oi, Starfleet, no. I do wish, though, that somebody had also said, you don't need 4 fucking warp nacelles. It just looks utterly fucking ridiculous. No.
I didn't dislike the original Stargazer design. This one, which is a Sagan class, so it's a different class of ship. So it's not a refit, despite the fact that Picard actually says it's a refit. I checked this with Andy, and he said no, he misspoke. Because it's a completely different ship. It's not like, the Enterprise was refit and still a Constitution class. No, this is a completely different class of ship. It's got Borg stuff in it. We'll later on find out, and it has the world's ugliest S. Oh man, that does not look good. And they show it from the rear a lot.
Yeah.
Boy, oh boy. It's like you take that one design that looks quite nice and then you completely ruin it. Why would you do that? You kind of expect, Picard to be all Godfather.
Look how they mess with my boy.
Yeah.
On the upside, the bridge looks nice.
I like the bridge.
If a little eccentric. Lots of steps and railings for some reason. It's a good job there isn't anybody with mobility issues in the future, isn't it? Because otherwise they would be screwed on this ship.
But we know that there is, because there's someone.
No, they have floaty wheelchairs now, so it's not an issue.
What was the wheelchair like in Discovery then?
It was floaty. Yeah, the
Okay.
floaty wheelchair, which kept cropping up.
Okay, so they have wheelchairs. It's just that they can cope with stairs.
Yeah, I mean, wheelchair probably is the wrong name for it because there's no wheels involved, so.
Oh,
Hover
okay.
chair.
Hover chair. Oh, cool. Yeah, okay. I'll make a point of mentioning that to Caroline then, and say in future she'll have a hover chair.
Yes. And you've got to love the red leather seats. That's very nice. The only thing I'm not a fan of is the fact that Rios is still smoking for no good reason. I mean, the last season you could argue he was down in the dumps and stuff. And
he was on his own ship.
Yeah.
Not on a Starfleet one.
I know, it just seems completely wrong, doesn't it?
It does. It's going to fuck up
why
all
has
their
Trek
atmospherics
started
and everything.
doing smoking? I mean,
Has Ron Moore got any involvement?
no.
No, because he was big on smoking, that's all, and smoking cigars and stuff. So,
Right.
So
But they never did it in TNG, and they never did it in DS9 or Voyager. It suddenly started becoming a thing in I think Picard. To be honest, I'm not sure they particularly did it in Discovery either. But for some reason, Picard they do like a good smoke, not just him but Raffi as well. Bizarre. Anyway, he's got his own version of Make It So, which is Spanish Dali.
Okay, right. Anyway, I do like the idea that he's been rehabilitated.
Yeah,
after season 1.
He looks good in uniform as well.
He does,
Very
yes.
smart,
Very
except for the
nice.
damn cigar.
Yeah, I would have an issue with that, but
Anyway, I think I take over at this point, don't I?
okay, I can just sit here getting moist thinking about Rios.
Okay, nice. The cadets are being assigned to different ships, including one named after Sulu, which is nice.
I like that.
Picard has been redesigning the Kobayashi Maru test. Oh, again with the Kobayashi Maru. Are there no other tests? Is that it? Is that the only one they ever take? We find out Raffi and Seven are no longer an item. We missed a whole relationship.
Well, no, they were holding hands at the end of...
Yeah, exactly. We missed the entire relationship. We come back and they split up. It's like, really?
Well,
Bastards. Apparently there's an audiobook coming out that's going to cover some of that, but it does rather feel like sidelining it. Oh no, we can't be doing that on telly, so...
unless it's something that's going to be dealt with either in flashback or they're going to get back together.
It may be something that's unpacked later on, in which case it might not be so bad. But yeah, that was irritating from this standpoint anyway.
Yeah.
Eleanor is assigned to the Excelsior. Again, no A, no B, no bloody C. Yes. I like the cadets' uniforms as well, by the way. They fit in nicely with the current uniforms. To be honest, there are so many uniforms now. It's just mad. Somebody has tried to track... Within 3 years, they changed uniforms 3 times. It's like, that's not how you deal with uniforms. Never mind. Picard gives Eleanor a book by Spurk about being one of the first Vulcans in Starfleet. And Raffi is reporting to the Excelsior 2. And it's a lovely design. It's very similar to the original Excelsior
Yeah, I like
design.
this one.
Yeah, no, it's good.
I like most of the designs on the Blast poster. I
Yes.
just don't like the Stargazer.
Basically,
and actually,
it's only the Stargazer I have an issue with.
and because they show the Stargazer side on, it doesn't look so bad. It looks okay side on. It's only when you're looking up its arse you think, oh, bloody hell.
Seven hails Rios, and he asks what she's done to his ship, which is very Han Solo.
Yeah.
Having stumbled over the many steps of the Stargazer, Agnes discovers they're being hailed by multiple languages, pleading for help from Picard. The Admiral, meanwhile, goes to LA to a club called Number 10 to speak to Guinan. Guinan for PM!
Yay!
He would make a far better job of it.
But why didn't she call it 10 forward rather than number 10?
Yeah, that is a bit wanky, isn't it? But anyway.
Because our bar's called 10 forward.
Yeah. She claims to be ageing despite not having to in order to not embarrass humans, which is a very convenient cover for Whoopi Goldberg getting older. And not the only such excuse in this episode either, but there we go.
No.
It's difficult, isn't it? Because they can't sort of say, not make reference to it, I guess, because otherwise people go, oh, why does she look older? But then to just make a convoluted reference to it like that seems even worse somehow. But never mind, you can't win, poor writers.
I think, to be honest, I would have preferred it if nothing had been said, because she doesn't owe anybody an explanation.
That's what I feel as well. He talks about his reticence to get attached to anyone for too long. Sorry, Beverly fans. Is she going to appear in this season?
Oh, I'd love that. Or if they got
They
together
really
by the
need
end.
to. They
yes,
really need to.
yes. Gates, please say yes.
Oh, yeah. I mean, she'd be there in a shot. It's more whether they'll have her or not. Anyway, Admiral Sally Whiteley visits Picard at his chateau. She's played by April Grace.
I recognised her.
Yeah,
Where did I know her from?
She was in Next Generation as Transporter Chief Hubble in several episodes.
Oh, that reminds me. Somebody at our work has started, and her name's Sonia Gomez.
No.
Yes.
Did she keep spilling chocolate down herself?
I don't know. She works on the 5th floor, but I'm so tempted to just bring her a hot chocolate
Yeah.
and see what happens.
Get her to bump into one of the partners.
The thing is, as well, that the she works within on the 5th floor where our IT team are, and the head of IT is a massive Trekkie. Ooh. So probably because she's on the same floor, she's already done it. She's already gone up with a hot chocolate just to see what happens.
Yay! She's also in the Hunger Games. And,
Oh, okay.
but did you watch Lost? I can't remember.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, she was in that as well.
Okay, so I'm knowing of the three things.
We have a nice admiral, finally.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, law of probability stated that at least one of them would be nice eventually, after Ross, who, for instance, has got a ship named after him as well.
Yeah, I like that.
They want him to look at the anomaly. Apparently the entity wants to join the Federation. Yet again, Laris and Number 1 get left behind. Boo! Picard arrives at the Stargazer and hails the anomaly, and a Borg ship emerges. He doesn't know what it is until asking Seven, though, because it's presumably now he's been reconstructed as a synth, he doesn't hear the Borg anymore.
Oh.
He's got an untainted body.
Oh, an untainted brain in that sense. Well, yeah, because they must have redone his brain in order to...
Well, it's a new brain, isn't it?
Yeah, so he'd still have the memories, but the connection's gone.
Yeah, he hasn't got that connection to the Borg anymore.
Oh, that's cool.
A fleet warps in. This is where we get all our spaceships.
Yeah.
There's a lot from Star Trek Online, so Purry will be happy. A couple of Sovereign-class ships, i.e. like the Enterprise E, which is nice too. And our first live-action Nova class as well, a.k.a. the Titan.
Yes, I recognise that.
Yeah. It would be great to see a live-action California class, just saying.
Yeah.
Please.
Is it really our first live-action?
It is, because
what is he in Picard 1 then?
He's in that copy and paste ship.
Oh, okay.
I mean, what a contrast it is to the end of the last season where we literally
Do you reckon somebody
we saw one design.
complained?
I think several people complained. I think they heard our podcast and realised down the steps.
In which case we're getting that poster.
There's a meeting in a conference room. Hey,
Yay.
old school. You see it? I say
Nice.
it's ticking all the boxes here. There is a suspicion, especially from Seven, that the Borg are wanting to join as a ruse. And they offer to send their queen. Ooh, the Borg queen beams over with a face mask, unusually. Possibly, are they holding off on an Alice Krieg reveal? Maybe. Certainly a more alien look as a result.
Yeah.
He uses some less than impressive CG tentacles to start accessing all the ships of the fleet. Everything's tentacles these days, have you noticed? End of season 1 of Picard, we had tentacles coming through the big rift in the time and space or whatever it was. Disco season 2, them tentacles again. Odd. The crew open fire, but the Queen only stuns them, and we're back to the start of the episode. Rios's crew, it has to be said, isn't very obedient. He keeps having to tell them to stop firing, and they don't. And then it goes all Inception with Non Je regrette rien playing in the background. Picard tries to activate the auto-destruct using that lame 000 code
God.
from the movies. Wow, that must be the time delay, surely. That can't be the code. Anyway, the Queen tells him to look up, echoing his mother. Maybe that's who's behind the mask. I mean, I hope not, because that would be very Discovery, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
And again, the face masks as well. I mean, I don't know, we just seem to be going back to the well of design a bit here, don't we? Hey-ho. And the Stargazer does explode. Picard wakes up in his chateau, but it's either in the mirror universe or another parallel dimension, as it includes a painting of him in a dark version of the monster Maroon, and he now has a different style of com badge on. Instead of Laris, he has a synth servant, which is a bit odd. And then Q turns up, with Delancey de-aging to begin with, and then changing to his natural state.
I like that one works for me,
Yeah.
because he's often done things to match Picard.
Yes, he has.
And
That's
that-
fine.
so
Change his uniform and stuff like that.
Yeah, so he's got precedent. So he then says, "Oh, I'm going to match you." Snap. So that works in the way the Guinan one doesn't.
Doesn't really, yeah.
But that one does.
Welcome to the end of the road not taken, he says. Which would have been a big reveal had not everybody known.
Yeah.
I mean, you couldn't escape the fact that Q
But
in
it was still, I kind of gave an inner cheer though when he appeared.
All right, it was a bit of an anticlimax for me, but there you go. There's no way they could have kept Q under wraps, I guess. And, even if they had managed it, then, as soon as they showed it to that select group of Star Trek fans the night before it was even showed in the United States, it would have leaked out. So.
But it doesn't bother me because the whole Q thing was hinted at the very, very beginning of season 1.
Well, that might just have been a throwaway thing rather than oh yes, he's definitely going to be back sort of
Well,
thing.
no, I think what they did was they sowed a seed in the hope that they get John Delancey for 2, because they didn't know when they were writing 1 that at least that episode of 1 that 2 would be commissioned. Mm-hmm. And they planned it as 3 and done. Do you know what I mean? So I think it was the opposite of a trapdoor, I suppose, of just sowing something that will be nice if it happens. If it doesn't matter. But yeah, I thought of it immediately, and I like John Delancey. I find him fun, and I'm interested to see where this goes.
I mean, it's, as I say, it is in some ways it's the most standard version of Trek we've had in a modern Star Trek in a long, since Voyager or Enterprise possibly, which is both, it's quite refreshing because we haven't had anything like that for such a long while. And I suppose you could also argue, oh, we're going back to the well, but that didn't bother me. I think the only thing that really bothered me was it was a big build up to something that we already knew was coming. But there we go.
See, I didn't see it like that for the specific reason that I had no idea it had anything to do with the Borg. That much I had been able to avoid.
Oh, well, yes.
You might not have, but I had. So I knew Q was in it, and I knew it was a different timeline-y thing, but not that it was Borg-related. So I didn't find it an anticlimax for that reason.
Right. Shall we find out what other people thought?
Yes!
We've heard from one Mr. Lee Metcalf.
Ooh, be
Yeah.
interesting to see what he likes his spaceships.
Yes, but he's not been a great fan of modern Trek, I think it's fair to say.
True.
So it's just going to be very interesting to see what he's made of this episode.
He tends not to be a fan of stuff written by or with Alex Kurtzman involved
Yeah,
in.
which is all modern Trek, so...
Oh, that would be why then.
Hello chaps, it's Lee here. Just thought I'd give you some feedback on Picard Season 2 Episode 1. I had some thoughts because I didn't like the first season. I'm going to be straight up and honest with that. I thought there was too much mean-spirited, just trying to make something gritty which was once optimistic and hopeful, and pretending that by doing that you are making it more relevant, when Star Trek can be relevant in hundreds and thousands of different ways without having to basically just go, darkness, everyone's an alcoholic, and you don't need to do that. In my opinion, anyway. Other people might like it. That's up to them. So, first thoughts were, watching Season 2, I was like, oh God, here we go again. Are we going to have the Alec Kurtzman bingo card? Do we get a planet blow up? Do we get a huge fleet for the finale? And do we get a cameo that just goes, hi, I'm here just to make everyone remember things. Hello, everyone. And that's that. The bingo card's kind of slightly marked. We did get a massive fleet, but it was there for a reason rather than just to turn up and make a finale, so that's good. The characters are all a little bit more toned down. It's starting to feel like it's trying to go back to the old Next Generation vibe of Star Trek, with kind of everything being a bit more optimistic in terms of like Picard at the academy, and everyone just being kind of, hey, you know, there's Raffi, but she's not an alcoholic now. Here's Rios, he's got a ship. You do still have the hello, I'm a cameo, I'm just dropping it in here for no reason thing with Guinan, where Picard turns up to go, hello, Guinan, and she goes, hello, we haven't discussed much about your life. And he goes, no, and then leaves. So there's lots of stuff like that where it just sort of seems a bit just more for people to sort of do that Leonardo DiCaprio thing where he kind of clicking his fingers and just going, oh, I remember that. The plot itself hasn't really gone very far. At the moment, it just seems to be front-loading everything with the usual Star Trek 2, Star Trek 6 nemesis kind of thing of, hey, Captain, you were a real heroic captain, but do you know what? You're getting old. Let's have a think about what could have been. How, you know, did you make the right choices? And then it ladles on endless references and allusions to that. It's kind of, you know, Picard, you know, what? Did you ever think you might have taken the wrong decision to race off into the stars when he could have been a family man? You know, and it's something that they tried with Generations and tried with Family. And to revisit in this is fine. And I think it's a better direction than Picard Season 1. But it's still one of those things where you sit there going, oh, come on. Okay, we've got it. You know, if you keep mentioning time and you keep mentioning the path not travelled and you keep remembering, you know, Picard didn't have a family and didn't move on and all this kind of thing, it's just like, okay, fine. That's cool, but don't just keep ladling it on with like things like time is on our side. You know, have you thought about the time when you went onto the Stargazer? Have you remembered this thing or remembered that thing, Picard? You know, constantly making him lament another time. And then up pops spoilers, Q, and then it's like, oh right, so we're just going to have a replay of Tapestry or All Good Things. You know, we're just going to have that again, but because multiverses are hot nowadays, you know, let's just play around with that. If we're not in a Nazi style Starfleet by episode 3, I'll be very surprised if we're not there. The only other thing I was going to say, and this is my stupid conspiracy theory, but if it is, I'm going to say it's the dumbest thing ever. But let's not get carried away. Thought for you: Borg Queen turns up with big mechanical head, can't see her face. My bet, that's his mum. From another universe. Just because, fuck it, it's Picard and we have to link him to the Borg any way we can. Anyway, that's my 5 minutes. Overall, it's an improvement on season 1, but at the moment that's a pretty low bar to vault. So anyway, take care, hope you're all well, and see you soon. Tatty bye.
Ta-ra, yeah, I tell you, I will be very cheesed off if that's his mom, because that's exactly the same beat they did with Discovery.
Yeah, I won't be.
Almost exactly the same damn costume as well.
I won't be if then there's another episode and it's someone else, and we're looking at multiple possible futures, and that's only one of them.
Well, I mean, you know, good point he raises about, you know, everybody's doing multiverses now. To be fair, if this is the mirror universe, then you can't point and criticise, because Trek's been doing that since 1960, whenever it was that Mirror was shown. So Trek has been leading the way. But the interesting thing was, not always. I mean, obviously some Next Generation episodes where they've got different parallel universes. There's that one with loads of wolves, isn't there? But generally, if they're going to do a parallel universe, it'll be the Mirror Universe, which we've got to know quite well over the years, and it has rules and stuff. It has its own continuity now, so that won't be so bad. If it's just another random mirror parallel universe, I'm not sure how strong that will be. But anyway, we'll find out. I think you can completely agree. If this is Guinan's only scene in the season, then it's pretty waste of time. Why bother? Type thing. Beyond the fact that, oh look, it's Guinan. But of course, Guinan does have a long-standing antagonistic relationship with Q, so I'm assuming she'll be back at some point.
I think so as well, because also remember,
if she doesn't.
What was it when they were all in the horrible future and Tasha Yar was back?
That's It's not the
Season 3 next gen.
Yeah, you see, that's another parallel universe one that wasn't the mirror universe, interestingly.
But she could see the real one. She knew that Tasha Yar shouldn't be there.
Yeah, that's true.
So I'm expecting her not to be a central character, but to be the one who knows what's real, if that makes sense. So I think I am expecting.
She
her
makes
in
sense.
more...
If you're going to do a parallel university thing, you're going to have
Yeah, exactly.
around.
That's what I'm expecting, is that she will be there more than one occasion, and she'll have that sort of role, and that's probably why they've written her.
One would hope.
One would hope. You're probably right about Nazi Starfleet. It wouldn't surprise me at all. Although it's interesting that you've gone to the whole, the Lift the Vise and the Borg Queen's his mum. I think there's also the possibility the Lift the Vise and the Borg Queen is him.
Now, it definitely sounded more female, which is why I am a bit worried it's his mum. But anyway.
Yeah, except, as I said, there could be multiple versions.
But I mean,
the
Queen generally is female, so, well, hence the name, so.
Yeah.
Where you're expecting Picard to be vamping it up behind the mask, are you?
Yeah.
Why not?
Why not?
Certainly would be a career choice.
Yeah, possible. But I would be disappointed if it's his mum and only his mum. I'll be really cross. But if it's his mum in one episode and then another episode it's somebody else, that I will be okay with. I would, as in, that it's a different reveal a couple of times or something. But I kind of like the idea that it would be him but camp. I think probably, though, I wouldn't be at all surprised, given the whole let's reach out to original actors. I would not be surprised if actually they have cast Alice Krieg.
So, you can find Lee on the Black Dog podcast, of course, which is practically every week and is looks at different movies every week and has been going longer than we have, I think. Yes, because I was doing News Geek back in the day, I think. Well worth checking out. Always good fun.
Yes, I got stared at as I was walking the dog around the park because I was laughing out loud.
The number of times, I've been, yes.
Yeah, I was really laughing, and there was all these joggers, and they were just staring at me. Sorry, joggers. Oh, we've heard from the Llama God.
He does say there is a sort of trigger warning thingy for childhood abuse. On this, so
okay.
You has been warned if that's an issue for you.
The evidence before the court is incontrovertible. There's no need for the jury to retire. Right then, here we are, back with Picard Season 2. To say that I was sceptical and questioning the whole thing going into this is something of an understatement, given how much when I saw the previews to this series, I was reminded how much I hated and still hate and am angry at the end of Picard Season 1. The whole nonsense, he's dead, wring it for all the emotion you can, and then bring him back to life in a new body that's almost identical and is going to function the same identically, and but why? Why did you do that? It was a cheap shot, and I hated they did it. So, yeah, I was definitely very uncertain about Picard coming into this. And I've got to say, as opening episodes for the season go, I was pleasantly surprised. This was nowhere near as cynical as that season ender. And in fact, if anything else, this actually felt more like Star Trek than the previous series. And obviously, the series isn't about Starfleet, it's about Picard himself. But still, Picard is back in Starfleet. And the series starts with everything being good in the world, which is actually a really nice place to start from. I know I said about Season 1 of Picard and Season 3 of Discovery that actually having stories that talk about starting off in a rather broken world and moving towards somewhere that's better is probably the kind of stories that we need right now, because, I mean, yeah. But equally, having a story that's set in a very hopeful future is going to be equally inspiring, so I think this is a really good way to start the season. And it's just really heartwarming and nice to see that everyone, well, almost everyone is in Starfleet. Picard is back teaching at the academy, passing on his knowledge. Raffi's in the fleet. Rios has been given his own ship. Elnor's signed up, and bless him, he looks so cute in the uniform. Sure, Seven's not back in Starfleet, but even so, she still seems to be doing better. She's doing good stuff. So, yeah, it's a really good place to start off the characters with. So, in a way, it's a shame that hopefulness, that positivity is removed by the end of the episode. I mean, yeah, obviously there's going to be some sort of threat or jeopardy, because otherwise you don't really have a story, do you? So, fair enough with that. But taking the characters to a dark mirror universe is like, yeah, come on, the real world is gritty and dark enough. I mean, this is escapism. And I know that we all eventually enjoyed the mirror universe episodes of Discovery. They didn't turn out to be quite as gimmicky as we thought they'd be, and I'm going to hope that they're alternate universe side of the story is going to have some sort of consequences in the real universe for us. So yeah, but it was just nice to be spending some sort of time in a hopeful, positive future, and the fact that we've been dragged into something else is just a bit jarring at the moment, and I wish we just stayed in that nice place for a bit longer. I'm hoping that we see more of that future before the end of the season and they don't just get back there in the final episode. So yeah, that's my hope. Now obviously, as I said, this series isn't about Starfleet, it's about Picard, and so we're going to learn a lot about Picard, aren't we? Aside from the fact we might learn why he keeps cock-blocking himself at every possible opportunity, but we're going to learn other things about Picard's life, including his traumatic childhood. Now, I'm not so sure how I stand on this part of the story, to be honest. I mean, on the one hand, we are going to finally get an explanation of why he is as he is when it comes to family and relationships that we saw all throughout The Next Generation. The whole thing that maybe it's because he had a troubled childhood and that's what caused him to overachieve, because, you know, you overachieve to stay out of trouble, to stay on the good side of some potentially problematic parents, and then at the first opportunity you get, you move as far away as you can, and space is pretty far away. That all tracks, that's all fairly consistent. But on the other hand, it seems like it's to do with the fact that he had an abusive father. In a way, I'm worried that there's going to be a danger here, that we're going to find out Picard is driven by the abuse that his mother faced. And if that's going to be the case, then that really is tantamount to his character being based on fridging, essentially. So, you know, the suffering of a female character is what's going to drive the heroic male character forward. And that's a really dodgy trope, and it's one that I really hope they don't go with. The slightly reassuring part is that Patrick Stewart is, of course, a big advocate for charities and organisations that try and fight domestic abuse, because obviously that is something that's actually in his own past, so I'm just assuming that's where this is coming from. So I'm hoping, if that's where they're going with, and it seems to be from what we see of those flashbacks in this episode, I'm hoping that it's going to be dealt with sensitively and it's not just going to be tropey cliche. I'm really, really hopeful of that. The other thing I can't, of course, leave without discussing is, of course, the sheer number of ships. There's so many ships. I mean, I'm sure you would have gone into this already online, so I won't go over it too much, but it's lovely to see some things. I like the fact that they have the Excelsior 2 class. I really like the Stargazer. It's got a really great look to the bridge. It looks like something that really could be a descendant of both the Discovery Season 1 and 2 era ships and, you know, Discovery / Strange New World style Enterprise, all the way through to something from post-Nemesis. You really see a sort of through line there. Lots of starships, lots of different looking starships, and I would say I hope we see more of that. But now that we've gone to Alternate Future and then we're going to go back to the past, I'm not sure how many starships we're actually going to see this season, so yeah, but I remain hopeful. And of course they held off the reveal of Q to the end, although if it's meant to be a big cliffhanger thing, I'm not sure why they did it that way, given that Q is in all the promotional material, but still it's good to see him back, given that we were discussing something very similar just last week, and he is something of a silver fox. But you've got to wonder, why now? Why did he choose right now to come back and help Picard? Because, you know, Picard died at the end of the last season, so Q could have intervened at that point, although I suppose he already has done that for Picard in Tapestry, so maybe he didn't want to repeat himself. Maybe he's only showing up now because he's finally pissed off and annoyed every other ship in the fleet, and now they're just all ignoring him. I mean, we saw how the Cerritos treated Q, so maybe he's going back to torment the only person who will actually pay him any attention now. So yeah, that's why I think he's come back now. So yeah, plenty more I could talk about for this episode, although I'm not going to, because I think I'm over time now. So as ever, I'll be looking forward to finding out what everyone else made of this. I hope everyone is safe and keeping safe in these times, and until next time, glory to you and your cast.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, it could be that all of this is driven by the abuse of his mother. And as you say, that would fit with Patrick Stewart's own childhood. But it's just really horrible motivation for the character, because a woman off screen is the motivation for him, rather than either the woman taking central stage or just, a bloke actually, having control of his own life or something. So that wouldn't be good if that's the whole thing, unless, rather than being his entire motivation for everything, it's kind of like the one unresolved issue. But I don't know, I'm still not comfortable really with anything that says, if you've got abuse in your background, you're incapable of having a normal relationship and you must only be on your own, because that's just not real life. Plenty of people do survive and go on to have good relationships, and some people never would have wanted a relationship anyway, irrespective of what happened to them. You can't look at people who are single and go, oh, they almost have something in their past, because some of them are actually quite happy on their own. So I'm hoping Lama's wrong. I'm rather worried he might be right.
We shall see. We shall see. We've also heard from Puri.
Hello, Args. Puri here to talk about the Picard episode Stargazers. Now, I thought this was a pretty decent start to the series, if a little disjointed at times. One of the main purposes of this was to let you know where all the characters were after the sort of end of the last series of Picard. So we have obviously Picard himself back in his vineyard, and I was slightly disappointed that the whole series was not going to be winemaking in Provence. But there you go, you can't have everything. We have Rios now in command of the new USS Stargazer, not the Stargazer A, weirdly enough, and we do see another Excelsior, and I wonder if it is not the Excelsior A, which makes the whole A thing really inconsistent, considering Discovery's got the Discovery A and we've got the Voyager J and whatnot. But no doubt is partly due to all the death threats Andy's been sending to CBS. So yeah, you've got Rios and you have Seven having a little Fenris Ranger type adventure, but they're all drawn to a big squirrely thing in space. But I think part of what we're also looking at, Picard's having a lot of flashbacks to expose that he's suddenly got mummy issues, and that's... It's not a bad thing to expose, but I think just suddenly giving Picard a different motivation is a bit weird. I get the idea they're trying to say why he's never settled, why he's never found someone to settle down with. And it's an interesting thing to explore, but I'm just curious about where they're going to be going with it. It did do a couple of things that annoyed me. It did that thing, I know it really annoys Dave Probert actually, but yeah, it's the bit where you show an exciting bit of the episode happening right at the start and then kind of flash back. And in this case we see kind of the security team running through the ship and getting onto the bridge where the Borg Queen is currently sitting. And we eventually get to that point. And I am a bit interested in where, like I say, I'm interested in where this is going, because the plot initially seemed to be that the Borg are kind of petitioning for peace. And they do mention the Borg have been hit very hard. I don't know if that was the end results of the Voyager finale, but yeah, it's interesting. But there's also then this Q sort of puts them into something which looks like a much more militaristic uniform, or at least they have bigger badges. And so that's kind of almost a cliffhanger at the end. I did like the way they only briefly digitally de-younged Delancey, and indeed the excuse for both Q and actually Guinan that they like to age, they're aging to keep up, gave the FX guys a good out. But it was nice to see that they did initially have the younger Delancey. That worked quite well. There's a couple of things. On one hand, I'm annoyed they changed the uniforms again. We only had a season of those Picard uniforms. I mean, I suppose timeline-wise we could have just been at the end. And I actually quite like those Picard uniforms, but I do also like the new ones. And yeah, you can see there's quite a lot of intricate patterning on them. So yes, I do wonder if they do it to annoy, as you mentioned earlier, do they do it to annoy cosplayers? I'm actually quite annoyed with what they did with the theme. You see, I know a lot of people didn't like the Picard theme. I actually did. Although, if you wanted something more bombastic, there was a very good end credits theme on the soundtrack. Somebody's heard it, well, at the end of the episode, oddly enough. And I really don't like what they've done with the theme for this intro. I mean, I like the way that the intro is hints and clues of stuff going on, a bit like Discovery does. It's got some elements of the show in the intro. But the way this is played, it felt like they were playing the original Picard theme plus a different tune over the top, and I wasn't quite sure what they thought they were doing, but it just sounded a mess. Maybe I'll get used to it, but at the moment I'm not a big fan of this. I much preferred the original. So yes, that's my shot. Overall positive. Looking forward to this season, and of course looking forward to you guys covering more of it. As always, keep up the good work, and with your nice type skills, I'll be feeding back hopefully on time each week. But until the next time, bye for now.
Bye, sir.
Bye. Yeah, I enjoyed it as well overall. There were just the odd bit here and there that annoyed me. I don't like the theme either. It feels like what they did with the DS9 theme in, was it season 4 or 5, where they just sort of added an extra bit. Yeah.
And woke it up a bit. I much prefer the new version of, because I mean the season 1 Picard theme was just Snorzil. I'm sorry, it just didn't ever seem to take off. Whereas this one at least seems to go somewhere. So yeah, I much prefer it, I'm afraid.
Okay. Do you think the Borg really are petitioning for peace?
I don't know. Who can say?
And what's your feeling about the change yet again in uniforms? Do you not mind so much because you like the new ones?
I don't dislike the new ones, but I do think it's silly they're changing it as often as they are, and it just feels like football strips now. Change it every season so we get money off the fans.
Oh, that's not a bad analogy.
Well, that's what it feels like, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
And make it more and more complex so people can't replicate them themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not that we have replicators yet, but I know what
you mean. No, that's not what I meant.
I know. Teasing.
It's not just us that thinks that Andy's behind the dropping of the
Yeah.
suffixes. I swear we need to get that time machine off him before he does some real damage. And ultimately, the cold open thing is a cliche. And basically, it reached its pinnacle with cause and effect. I mean, you can't beat your cold open is the Enterprise blows up.
Yeah.
Then the music plays. Then you start again. I mean, that's just so genius. And it's like, I'm sorry, that's won the prize. You're never going to beat that. Sorry, no point trying.
Yeah. Yep.
Cool. Well, there we go. Do let us know what you thought of the episode if you'd like. And we'll include your thoughts in the next podcast when we shall also be covering the next episode, which is, I believe, is it Penance?
And now my brain's gone to a Python place.
Penance.
Tiesu Domine. Plonk. Domine es requiem.
Right. So we'll be recording on Thursday, the 17th of March, which is next Thursday. Oh my gosh, weekly podcasts. And there will be a special coming up in the next few days, I promise, on the other feed. And it's really worth checking out, but I'm not going to say anything more than that. But a sci-fi classic that we're covering.
Yeah.
But until next week, take care. Chew bye.
Boys, bye.
Now the party's over. I'm so tired.
The artwork for this podcast was created by Andy Palastides.
All music referenced is for illustrative purposes only, and no copyright infringement is intended.
Find our website at borgcast.libsyn.com.
And we have a YouTube channel as well.
You can find the Borgcast playouts on Spotify for your listening pleasure.
Visit our Tumblr site at borgcast.tumblr.com, where you'll find images accompanying the episodes discussed in this cast.
Send emails or MP3s to borgcast@gmail.com.
Or you can contact us via Twitter on rev_org or borgcastammo. #Borgcast.
When the samba take you out of nowhere, when the background fading out of focus, yes, the picture's changing every moment, and your destination you don't know.
Shut it down!